What's happening there, guys? Welcome back to Unveiling Wild. We all know that zoos are a perfect place to be, right? It's a truly excellent spot for a brief family vacation, and kids are especially eager to visit their furry pals. But not all zoos are made equal. Some conduct important conservation work and research, but others do the opposite and subject caged animals to horrible conditions and inhuman treatment. However, some zoos go above and beyond expectations of horrible. Have you ever heard of a zoo misplacing some animals? How about one in which authorities physically abuse these endangered animals? Finally, how is the ongoing bombing in Ukraine affecting these helpless animals? So on this tangent, here are the top 10 cruel zoos in the world, and as a heads up, the zoos listed here are places you don't want to bring the kids, or yourself for that matter. Number 10. Giza Zoo Egypt. From the video, it is visible that the man is with a stick commanding the African elephant to perform so that people will pay him an Egyptian pound. And this is just one of the many horrific things tourists will see at the Giza Zoo, which was previously regarded as one of the world's best zoos. However, now, the Giza Zoo is no longer the crown gem it once was, having been banned from the World Association of Zoos and Aquariums in 2004. Instead, it has become a site of animal cruelty, trash, and bad management. Quite a downfall indeed. According to the tourists, it was shocking how they held the cubs and their parents were locked in cages and only allowed to freely roam in the somewhat larger spaces for only 2 to 3 hours a day. And again, the small dingy cages are not limited to the lions but extend to species of all types. All I can say is that this zoo got its well-deserved downfall. Number 9. Gilkin Zoo, Iraqi Kurdistan. Animals are kept in cramped and dirty conditions in situations alien to them. That's the dire situation of the zoo known as Gilkin in Erbil, Iraqi Kurdistan. According to its supervisor, the 8,000 square foot property is home to about 30 species and even contains a kennel for domestic dogs and cats, which are caged, of course. As it appears that the major business of zoo owners in Kurdistan is marketing, this miserable place appears to be a horrific rendition of Dante's Third Inferno. Even the zoo's director admits to smuggling smaller animals for private collectors but denies shipping dangerous creatures like tigers or lions. So therefore, if you're planning to visit zoo, be aware that you may be paying the delivery fee for smugglers. Number 8. Antonio Zoo, Texas. From afar, the Antonio Zoo's population of around 9,000 animals representing 750 distinct species might seem impressive. However, the entire zoo barely covers 56 acres, cramming its 9,000 animal population into very little space. Many animals are confined in small, outmoded, and insufficient cages with no sufficient structure that their species need for mental well-being. As a result, Gertrude's death came as no surprise, as previous to her death in 2012 from renal failure. Gertrude the Reno languished in a rusty enclosure that was too tiny for her, lacked shade, and lacked a mud bellow, a vital item for her species. Although she died, there was no official word from the zoo. Truly despicable, and I believe justice should be served for Gertrude. Number 7. Oradea Zoo, Romania. But there is another horror story, as around 14 lions in a Romanian zoo is said to be facing death after authorities have decided to shoot them as they're too weak to stand or even roar. The squalid and ramshackle Romanian zoo, condemned as the unfit for animals by the European Union, has no money to build proper enclosures to replace the tiny 15 feet by 12 feet cages into which up to 4 lions at a time are crammed. As we can see, Caesar, the prize leader, is hardly able to move, and this once mighty muscles have disappeared due to a lack of exercise. Like other lions at the zoo, he sleeps on a concrete floor, lives in filth, and he soars on their bodies. The majority were bred into their heinous captivity in Oradea Zoo. The zoo will soon be forced to put them down. I suppose it's a sad instance of bad management. Number 6. Takazu, Bangladesh. According to this video, Raja, a 21-year-old Bengal tiger, is languishing in his cage with no medical treatment and minimal food. Bugs are buzzing in circles around his leg wounds, but due to his infirmity, the elderly tiger looks to be hesitant to push the flies away. Visitors will occasionally try to thrill him by taunting him by tossing bottles and paper at him. However, Raja, who is on their deathbed, has lost all the interest in the raging and has tolerated for years. Many of the animals in the Bangladeshi National Zoo, like Raja, are experiencing this. With inadequate medical care, little food, and overcrowded cages, the confined animal appears wretched and feeble, making seeing them unpleasant for all visitors. The zoo, set on 186 acres of land in Dhaka's Mirpur district, is the world's 4th biggest in terms of acreage, and has the potential to be one of the greatest in the world, with 2 stunning lakes, a museum, 2 camping areas, and expansive gardens and orchards. However, more than 50 animals in the zoo are elderly and afflicted with various ailments. Bangladesh National Zoo has become a death camp for caged wild animals due to poor administration and government incompetence, and I guess it would be better to skip that place. Number 5. Mumbai Zoo, Ontario, Canada. Next, let's take a look at the caught act story concerning Mumbai Zoo owner Michael Hackenberger, who was recorded on camera viciously lashing a tiger and boasting about how much he enjoys scaring and controlling animals. Fortunately, the Ontario Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals responded immediately to the video and started investigating the owner of this private zoo east of Toronto. According to the agency, the zoo's owner Michael Hackenberg is charged with 4 charges of causing animal discomfort and 1 count of failing to comply with prescribed animal care requirements. 3 of the 3 distress accusations include the use of a whip. But at least this story has a happy ending. With the help of about a dozen protesters outside the Mumbai Zoo, attendance had plummeted significantly following complaints of animal cruelty, and the 97-year-old controversial zoo closed its doors for good, forever. Number 4. Oklahoma City Zoo. Many roadside attraction zoos, as we know, are exclusively driven by profit, engage in wildlife exploitation, and participate in illicit wildlife trafficking. And unfortunately, Chai was a victim of this disgusting activity. Chai, a 37-year-old female Asian elephant that arrived in May 2015 from Woodland Park Zoo in Seattle, died in January 2016. According to the IDA, Chai's health concerns began soon after she arrived in Oklahoma City. She dropped over 1,000 pounds shortly after arriving in Oklahoma and was spotted on the ground 3 times in 1 week. She had to be hauled up by a machine on 2 occasions. Among her numerous chronic health issues, she had a bacterial infection in her bloodstream, which was most likely caused by 25 visible pus-filled abscesses that went untreated. Yet the Oklahoma Zoo dared to say that there were no red flags before her death. No words at all. Number 3. Mumbai Zoo, India. Animal lovers describe Mumbai zoos as depressing, as it seems like the Mumbai Zoo does even seem like a zoo. Animals here die regularly as a result of neglect and maltreatment. The animals of the Mumbai Zoo are neglected, and the zoo does not adhere to the country's anti-cruelty rules, and many of the animals die as a result of neglect since the zoo cannot support them. But the horror doesn't end here, as the zoo lacks the finances to replace these dead animals. They have turned to taxidermy. Yes, when animals die here, they're suffered and re-exhibited. It's only a matter of time before the replicas replace the 745 animals. Even zoo administrators have shamelessly said that they intend to renovate the zoo into a taxidermy museum. The lack of food and care seems like a facade. In reality, it seems like the zookeepers merely let the animals die so that their skin can be stretched across a fake replica of them by a taxidermist. Even in death, these animals cannot live peacefully. Number 2. Shenyang Forest Wild Animal Zoo, China. The Shenyang Zoo, which is partially controlled by the municipal government, made headlines after 11 Serbian tigers died of starvation in 6 months. Because the zoo was strapped for cash, the caretakers fed the animals inexpensive slices of chicken. Furthermore, according to the Beijing News, 40 to 50 tigers have perished since 2000, and the production of tiger bone wine for human use is well kept secret. Many animals are mistreated since there is no law against cruelty to animals. Some animals have had their teeth or claws removed, others are compelled to do circus acts. I cannot speak for a country, but China should examine its genuinely heinous practices. Number 1. Kyiv Zoo Ukraine. Finally, the present situation in Ukraine is having a significant impact on the country's zoos. The Kyiv Zoological Park is now being bombarded by Russian forces. Even miles away from the explosions, elephants, giraffes, and emus reacted with stress and agitation and moved to the quieter areas of their enclosures. Additionally, giraffes also moved closer to the other animals in their herd, a behavior seen in wild giraffes indicative of increased protection. The situation has escalated quite far as it breaks a whole lot of rules and regulations, but all we can do is pray and give as much support to Ukraine, Slava Ukraini. Now that's all for today, and please be sure to like this video and subscribe to our channel so you won't miss out on any of our future videos.